Let's do another practice problem. In this practice problem, we are going to interpret the ratios. So we have a set of information given to us. Here is a table. There are a range of ratios which are given to us for 3 financial years. And we also have the average of the top 5 competitors. And what we need to do is to answer some questions. So what is happening here is the financials of a company which is engaged in trading of perishable goods are given to you. You have to verify the comments of this owner. And so the owner of the business is making some comments, and we have to look at the numbers and say whether his comments are, in the right direction, or is he himself misinterpreting the numbers. The first comment is, in 2020, our liquidity position has improved compared to previous years. Okay, fine. So 2020 liquidity position. Let me get the liquidity numbers here. So liquidity position can be gauged by looking at current ratio. We can look at the liquid ratio. We can look at absolute liquid ratio. So where are these numbers in this table? So in this table, you have, where are these numbers? Quick ratio and current ratio, but there is no absolute liquid ratio. No. So quick ratio is going up, going down. Well, it went up slightly, and then it went down. So from 1.029, it is 1.028. It is not going up. The quick ratio has gone down actually. The liquid ratio, this is the quick ratio, 1.029 to 1.028. Okay, and I'm saying 2018 to 2020. Let us look at current ratio as well, from 1.15 to upwards and again upwards. So 1.15 to 1.33, 1.15 to 1.33. So it is upwards. And the industry averages are also given to us, 1.25 for current ratio. This is industry average, and you have 1.031 for the quick ratio. We don't have information on absolute liquid ratio, so let's just ignore that. Using these two, what kind of conclusions can we come to? So are we better have we improved our liquidity position? Are we better in terms of our ability to meet our short-term liabilities? That is the first question. So the current ratio has gone up, and it is better than the industry average as well. So although we only have to comment on whether over the years the position has improved, but you can also take a benchmark, industry average. Compared to industry average, we are doing better. The company is doing better. Compared to previous 2 years, the company is doing better. In the previous 2 years or 3 years actually, from 18 to 20, we have surpassed the industry average. We have crossed the industry average of 1.25. So according to current ratio, we can say yes, our short-term financial position has improved. All right. So first statement can be corroborated, can be verified. Let us then look at the second ratio, which is the quick ratio, which means take out the stock and prepaid expenses from the numerator and then do the calculations. It is static. It's not changing. It's not moving. Compared to industry average, we were doing worse, and we continue to do worse. There was 1 year in between when this ratio, quick ratio, went to 1.03. We met the industry standard, but we could not surpass it, and again we dropped it. So overall, we would say quick ratio, no. This according to quick ratio, we are not in a good position, because compared to industry standard, we have gone down. Now you could argue that this is very small variation. It's not a very large difference. This is 0.01 only. So it may not be a significant number, but still compared to industry average, we are below. We should be better than the industry. Why should we be below the industry average by even 0.01? So let's be very strict with this company. So we say no, the short-term financial position has not improved according. So we have contradictory conclusions from these two ratios. Depending upon what you are more interested in, you could pick each of these items. So you could say current ratio is of more importance. So we're going to assign 80% weightage to this and 20% weightage to this, which would mean overall we are going to say fine, we are in a satisfactory position. We are doing well in terms of short-term financial position. But if you say the stock and the prepaid expenses, which are the part of current asset, which is the difference between these two ratios, stock is very highly unlikely to be sold now because the regulations have changed, the government has changed. There is a new competitor in the market, and we will not be able to sell the stock. If that is the case, then you certainly should discard the current ratio and look at the quick ratio, which shows you the money, the assets, current assets, which you can actually convert into cash. So you have to do some subjective analysis to come to such conclusions. But overall, if none of that was, if the stock and prepaid expenses are not doubtful, prepaid expenses of course are not doubtful, but if stock is not doubtful to be sold, then you could look at current ratio and say we are in a satisfactory financial position. All right, let's look at the second statement, which says over the years we have been able to improve the liquidity. All right, so it is assuming that liquidity has improved. So we are going to say fine, let's assume that liquidity has improved. Let's give more weightage to the first ratio, which is current ratio. Now it says we have improved our liquidity by managing our cash and cash equivalents better. So it's assigning the improvement in the current ratio to the cash and cash equivalents. So what it is saying is the increase in current ratio is due to cash and cash equivalents. All right, is this true? Now let us look at it. Current ratio is equal to current assets minus divided by current liabilities. Quick ratio, on the other hand, is equal to current assets minus the stock and prepaid expenses divided by current liabilities. So in these two ratios, the difference is that of stock and prepaid expenses. Now the current ratio is going up from 1.15 to 1.33. On the other hand, quick ratio stays the same, 1.029 to 1.028. It actually goes down a little bit. So current liabilities are common in both the numbers. Current assets are common. Only difference is the stock and prepaid expenses. So if the current ratio is going up, the reason for this is stock, not the cash and cash equivalents. The current ratio is going up because the amount of stock that you are stocking, the amount of inventory that you are able to hold now is going up. So this is not due to cash and cash equivalents, but because of the stock that you are able to maintain, or the prepaid expenses, more expenses are being paid in advance. That is what it means. So the second statement has been actually refuted. We cannot verify that statement unless more information is provided to us. Okay. Let's go to the third statement, which says long-term financial position is satisfactory. All right. And there is nothing to worry about. Is there nothing to worry about? Let's look at long-term indicators. Let me use a different ink here as well. Which ones are the long-term financial position indicators? So we know debt to equity, this is one, debt to equity, and then interest coverage, and then we have proprietary ratio, which we do not have here, but we have debt by total assets, which is opposite of proprietary ratio. So we can make use of these three ratios to come to some kind of conclusion. So debt to equity ratio is actually going down, fine. The debt in the company is going up, from 35% to 40% of the total value of the assets, and the interest coverage ratio has actually significantly gone down. So let's bring these numbers to a new page and then discuss these. Debt to equity first, from 90% to 75%. So debt to equity ratio from 90% to 0.75%, and industry average is 0.88. 0.88 is industry average, the benchmark. Okay. Now this is 2018, this is 2020. The debt to equity ratio is going down, which means there is less debt in the company compared to the equity. Equity is more, debt is so proportion of debt is going down vis-a-vis equity. This is what it says. In 2018, if you had 1 rupee worth of equity, you had 90 paisa worth of debt, and now you only have a 0.75 paisa worth of debt compared to 1 rupee of equity. So vis-a-vis equity, the contribution of debt has gone down. Now, is this good or is this bad is the question, and we answer that question using the industry average. Industry, the competitors are using debt which is 0.88 of 1 rupee of equity, and we have now reduced our debt level to only debt equity ratio to only 0.75, which means we may not be operating at the industry average. And if we take industry average to be the optimal debt level, then we are certainly not doing great. We are leaving some value on the table. We are not capitalizing on an opportunity. We could have taken a little bit more debt and benefited from the low cost of debt, which we are not doing. Okay, anyways, but this is not very alarming in the sense that it's not that the debt is becoming too much. So yes, it is satisfactory. We may not be at the optimal level, but it's not highly dissatisfactory. There's nothing alarming, nothing to be worried about. So first ratio is done. The second ratio is debt divided by total assets. This is what is given to us. Goes up from 35% to 45%. 35% to 45%, and industry average in this case is 35. 35. What does this mean? This means that debt in the total, debt as total contribution to the assets. The opposite of this is going to be shareholder fund divided by total asset. This is what we were interested in, the proprietary ratio. However, in this you would have only shareholders fund, and debt may only include the long term funds. Therefore, these are not exactly complementary of each other. You can't do 1 minus this ratio equal to the proprietary ratio. You can't do that because current liabilities are not included here. However, what we can understand is that this company has raised a lot of debt. From 35%, now the debt contribution is 45% in the total assets of the business. So debt to equity ratio was going down, but total debt in the company has gone up. And industry average is only 35% debt. And now we are 10% higher, which can be suboptimal, which can be dangerous for the company because we are operating at very high debt levels. There is advanced discussion that we do in courses like financial management or corporate finance, where we talk about the dangers of having a lot of debt, the costs that have to be incurred by the company to have that higher debt. The insolvency possibility is also there. So having this much high debt may not be good for the company. So although in using the first ratio we said a satisfactory debt position, satisfactory long-term financial position, I'm going to now say I'm going to downgrade that estimate and say no. Looking at this new number, it seems that we are breaching the industry standard and we are going above the top 5 competitors in terms of contribution of debt in the total asset. We should not be doing that possibly. Okay. Now let's look at the third ratio, which is interest coverage ratio. What is interest coverage ratio? From 4.45 we drop to 0.9. So 4.45 to 0.9 is a serious drop, very serious drop compared to industry average of 4.65. 4.65. All the competitors, the top 5 competitors actually, are maintaining 4.65 times. They have earnings which are 4.65 times the interest amount which is due to be paid. You were there as well, but you were very close to that in 2018. But over the 2 years which followed after 2018, you have less earnings. Actually, your earnings are not sufficient to pay off your interest expenses. So this means the EBIT over interest is zero point 0.9. So this means EBIT is actually less than the interest which needs to be paid. You don't have enough money to pay the interest. You must have done some short-term arrangement to pay off the interest. This is a very, very serious position for the company to be in. This is not good for the company because you're not able to meet your short-term expenses at all. So I would say this is highly alarming, highly unsatisfactory. So the owner of the company who says there is nothing to be worried about is wrong, completely way off. He does not see this, or he is trying to hide the facts from the stakeholders. All right, let's go on to the last point, which says we have become more efficient in managing our operations. What are these numbers which indicate efficiency of operations? Let me use a different ink. This one. So efficiency is indicated by the turnover ratios. We have stock turnover ratio, inventory turnover ratio. We have the collection period, and we have total asset turnover ratio. Yes, let's use these three numbers to come to some kind of conclusions. The inventory turnover goes up from 32 to 62. So stock turnover ratio, all right, let me use this last slide. The stock turnover ratio goes up from, I said 32 to 42, from, where is it, stock turnover, 32 to 62 actually, and industry average is 53. 62 and 53. So 62 and industry average was 53. This is stock turnover ratio. Then let me look at the second indicator, which was average collection period. This is debtors, goes up from 94 to 113. 94 to 113. This is collection period, which means every 94th day or every 113th day we collect from our customers. And industry average is 130. And finally, the third number we have is total asset turnover, which is 0.7 and 0.5. So 0.7 and 0.54, and industry average was 0.4. All right, let's look at these numbers now. This is assets turnover. Looking at the first number here, stock turnover ratio, this has gone up from 2018 to 2020. Stock turnover, we are converting our stock into sales 62 times in a year. We have a average stock that we maintain, and then we sell it, and then we buy more. So 62 times in a year is what we are doing this process. We were earlier doing this 32 times a year, which means we have become certainly more efficient in converting our stock into sales. Industry average was 53, so we jumped above the industry average in the 2 years. Good operations. We have been managing our operations well. We have become more efficient in managing our stock. We can say that. And also during the discussions of short-term financial position, we noted that the stock has gone up. The current ratio was higher than the quick ratio. So the contribution of the stock has gone up, which is also reflected here. Now, if you have more stock, you're doing more sales. Are you managing your customers better? Are you managing the credit given to the customers better? So earlier, the company used to collect money from the customers every 94th day. Every 94th day in the year. And now we are doing every 130th day in the year. The industry average is 130 days. Every 130 days you collect from your customers. Let me just make sure that this is what it means as well. Average collection period. Period is in days. So on average, every 94th day to now 113th day, if we are able to collect, we are increasing the number of days of credit given to the customers. So we have increased this, which means our credit policy has expanded, has improved. Has it improved compared to industry standards? Well, not. Industry is giving higher credit period. They're giving 130 days. We have earlier we used to give 94 days. Now we are giving 113 days. So maybe the company can do something here. Company can increase its credit period by a few more days, 17 more days at least, and can go above. And this is industry average still. Some market players, some competitors may be giving actually more than 130 days worth of credit to the customers. So the company may need to think about this a little bit more and see if it wants to improve its credit policy. And finally, we have the third ratio, asset turnover ratio, which essentially is the sales divided by the fixed assets. So sales were 70% of the fixed assets. Now they are 50% of the fixed assets. Sales as a percentage of fixed asset has dropped in the last 2 years. Compared to industry, we are still doing fine, but comparing to ourselves, we have become inefficient. We have invested in more fixed assets, but we have not generated enough sales to maintain the assets turnover ratio at the same level. So this means that earlier sales were 70% of the fixed asset. Now they are only 54% of the fixed assets. So maybe base has gone up, maybe sale has not gone up by the same numbers, but we don't have enough information to conclude that. What we can conclude certainly is that compared to industry average, you are doing better, but compared to your previous track record, you have gone down in terms of your efficiency, your ability to manage your fixed assets in the business. So overall, the efficiency of the business, I would say, yes, it has gone up. You have been better in managing the stock. You can do better in extending the credit period to the customers, but there's nothing alarming. You can be more lenient, which may help more sales. And if you do this, then this lower asset turnover ratio can also be improved, possibly as well. All right, let me stop here. In this video, we discussed the efficiency level of the business, the short-term financial position and the long-term financial position of the business. We verified the claims given by an owner, in a very new way, which we've not done before. We looked at a bunch of ratios, and we tried to compile various numbers, mix and match, to interpret these numbers better. I'll see you in the next video.